Welcome to September's Brenda Novak book group, where we will be discussing Kristin Harmel's The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau. This is such a great book. It's been great getting everybody's feedback, and I know not everybody's finished yet, so we will be careful not to give away the twists and turns that happen at the end, so no spoilers, but we will get to talk to Kristin and hear about her process and how she came to be a writer and what her thoughts were behind this book and what she hopes readers will take away from it. So we got a lot of great stuff to come. But first, make sure you like and share this meeting so that other people can find it. And if you do so, you'll be entered to win a $50 gift card to the Brenda Novak store, where we sell our cool Brenda Novak book boxes and other reader-related stuff. Also, let us know where you're coming from. We always love to look through the comments and see where people are joining us from. Let us know how long you've been in the book group. And if you're new, welcome to those who are new. Just to tell you a little bit about how it's run, we choose a new book every month. If I have a book out that month, we choose mine. But if I don't have a book out, then we have other best-selling authors that we invite to participate in our book group. And we read their latest release and we discuss it together on the fourth Thursday of the month. Everybody's invited. And if you'd like to do something a little extra to enjoy book group even more, you can get a subscription to the Brenda Novak book boxes, which include an autographed copy and some other reader related stuff that my daughter curates and does such a good job. Most of it you can't get anywhere else, just like the one that went in this glass that went into September's Brenda Novak book box. It says Because Reality Can Wait, and it has an open book. I don't know if you can read that, but it's such a lovely glass. And we are going to actually have a wine tasting for the book box subscribers and anybody else who got a September box. You got a ticket in your box for a special wine tasting that we will be having on a Zoom event directly after this meeting. So if you didn't get the link to that, make sure you email store@brendanovak.com so that we can get it to you quickly before the meeting is over, because then you'll be hopping on Zoom, where we will have our resident wine expert, Vinny, who is Alexa's husband. He's worked in the wine industry for many years, and he has done one other wine event for us. But this is going to get you all ready for our big 2-day reader event, not September, in April, April 11th and 12th. It's going to be in Sacramento, but it's going to be as if you went to Italy. You're going to be immersed in everything Italy that we've experienced when we went on the Amalfi Coast for Alexa's wedding. We had such a wonderful time, and I wanted to be able to share that area with you, which is why I wrote the book, Meet Me in Italy, which will be coming out April 7th. And that weekend, we will be doing all kinds of things like eating the food that the characters had, that the characters ate in the book, and seeing the sights that they saw. And I'll have a cool video where I'll show you all the places that we went that are actually in the book. There will be a ceramics thing. We have a great chef who owns an Italian restaurant in my area who will be making all the food for 2 days. So it's going to be quite an event. So if you don't have your tickets for that, make sure you get them shortly. The stuff that Alexa and I have been going over gets me even more excited about doing it. And we're counting down the days. So it's going to be our first reader event. So we'll see how it works, whether we turn it into a yearly thing. But maybe, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to give Alexa a nervous breakdown, so I don't want to promise that too soon. But anyway, speaking of the glass that I was showing you earlier, Janet Roble, bless her heart, she does so much for our book group, and she ordered several glasses. She ordered some that we're going to be able to give away. So she got 2 of them, and we're going to give those away to a live viewer. And the winners of those are Jennifer Miller and Judy Tomatich. So congrats to you. You will be getting, courtesy of Janet Roble, each of you will be getting a Because Reality Can Wait glass with an open book under it. So thank you so much to Janet for doing that. The September boxes are sold out, but we do have extra glasses. If you haven't gotten yours, you can still order them. They're great for gifts for Christmas or for your book club, or just, reader-loving friend or a wine-loving friend. You can put anything in them. We were careful to leave wine out of the actual saying, so because we know many of you just want to do mocktails or maybe lemonade or something like that. So our October boxes are getting ready to ship out, and I am so excited about this because I love holidays. So if you are a holiday lover like I am, you're not going to want to miss this one. The cute ghost pillow covers that go in this, I think they are probably our best holiday holiday item that we've had so far. So if you haven't seen them, definitely check them out. There's other really cute holiday stuff going in there too, Halloween stuff. Normally I have a Christmas book out, so we have to do Christmas in October, which kind of bums me out because I do love Christmas, but I also really love October. It's one of my favorite holidays, and my family always loves dressing up, and Megan and the kids especially go all out, and they have great costumes. So I love looking through the years and seeing what they've dressed out as. But in October, because I didn't have a Christmas book out, we were able to do a suspense book. And this one is a story by Greg Olson, and it's chilling. It is very chilling. So you have to like suspense, and it's a real life story. So there's definitely some sadness there. But if you like true crime and that sort of thing, you're really going to love this book. So anyway, it's perfect for suspense lovers. And you guys are always saying, I want you to write more suspense. I want you to write more suspense. So I was excited to get this suspense book in. And again, Janet Roble bought something for us to give away. She bought an October box. So I'm able to give one of those away tonight too. And that winner is going to be Gail Beasley. So congratulations, Gail. Tell us in the comments what your favorite genre is for a chance to win another giveaway that Janet did. She did some. We started after doing the book group for 9 years. We have allowed throughout, in case it is like suspense is too hard hitting for somebody, or somebody doesn't like romance, they like women's fiction. We allow people who purchase the boxes to trade out the main book for one of mine. So that leaves us sometimes with a little bit of extra inventory of the authors we've had. And so you can imagine for 9 years, a few of these books have been piling up, and we're thinking, what can we do with these wonderful books that are signed? And so we thought, I know, we'll do this really cute surprise book where you don't know what book you're getting, and it's wrapped up really cute with some fun little extras. So it's like buying yourself or someone else a gift, but you do get to choose the genre. So you can say suspense or women's fiction or whatever, and they're only $20. So it's a great, inexpensive way to get something special that's been signed and to have a little surprise enter your life. And Janet was nice enough to get, let me see, I think it was 3 or 4 of these. Oh, she did 4. Oh my gosh. So you have 4 chances to win. I'm not going to choose those live. We after the book group meeting is over, we usually have we always have a giveaway post that we put up that tags the people who have won, and it gives the link where you can get the item. So it's our only way of making this process work. We are trying to do so much with such a small staff. So make sure when that goes up, you follow that link in order to claim whatever it is you have won. So, and like I said, we'll be tagging everybody, and filling that out is the way to get it. So I think we're through most of the announcements, and I want to be able to welcome Kristin Harmel. She's a New York Times bestselling author, a USA Today bestselling author, a #1 internationally bestselling author, and she has written some amazing books like The Forest of Vanishing Stars, The Book of Lost Names, which I absolutely love, The Winemaker's Wife, and a dozen others that have been translated into more than 30 languages and are sold throughout the world. So welcome, Kristin.
Hi, thank you so much for
Hi.
having me.
Oh, thank you for being our guest and for signing all those books. Was
Oh,
that
I,
just
you
a
know,
tremendous job?
yes, it was, but I was just listening to what you were talking about, and like the what you've created here is amazing. I mean, it's incredible. Like just the things
Oh,
that you offer to your readers, the options you offer them, the fun that you have, like the experience you're offering to go with your book in April. It's incredible. I really commend you. I think it's hard enough to write the book, but to be doing all these other things, you're just building an empire. I'm so impressed.
well, I can't take credit for how great the book group is. It's the people, individual people in it. Everybody does their part. Everybody pulls together. And I mean,
Awesome.
even for those who are on like fixed living and stuff, they will donate for them to be able to have a book box to brighten their
That's
day, or if they've,
awesome.
just lost their husband or something. So it really has enabled us. Their goodness has enabled us to be able to do a lot more than we would be able to do otherwise. So I'm very, very grateful to them and the support that they offer us and our guest authors.
Well, the boxes are so cool too. I was telling you before we came on that I actually got 2 of the boxes because you were kind enough to send me one, but then I ordered one as well. So like just to open it up and to see the care that you put into it, and I've got my beautiful glass here too for anyone who ordered the September box with the because reality can wait. I love it. So you've curated them very well, and
Oh,
it's just a beautiful
thank
thing.
you. Thank you. Lexa worked so hard that always makes her feel really good. So I
That's
appreciate
awesome.
that.
She's great.
That's so nice. So how long did it take you to sign that many books?
Oh my gosh. So my husband helped to unbox and box, and I knocked it out in 2 afternoons, but it was like the
Wow.
entirety of 2 afternoons.
Yeah. Well, with hardcovers, it's harder, right? Because they're heavy. You got to move
It
them
is. You
around.
get a flap and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you for doing it because I mean, if you guys didn't get one, I'll show you. It looks awesome. And she even used a fun
Aw.
special pen. You must have ran out of a lot of those pens.
I sign in gold Sharpie, which is great, except that sometimes they splatter. So I have to like make the little splatters into flowers or something. And they do, they do run out more quickly. But yeah, I think I went through two boxes of Sharpies on all the books.
Have you ever just screwed one up where you were like, whoop, there goes a book?
Yes. Has that happened to you as well?
Absolutely. I had another author come to me. I was signing a book for her, and she was saying, I'm a terrible speller. And I was, you know how when you're trying to talk and write at the same time, that
Yes.
can be hard. At least for me, it's like
Yeah,
I can't. I
same.
guess I can't walk and chew gum. I don't know, but so I wrote, "You're a." I was going to say you're a wonderful friend, and I said you're a, and she had just said terrible, so I wrote you're a terrible, and then I went, where do you even go with that? And it's in front of somebody, so they're going to think it's a Freudian slip when you say this was just
Oh
because you just said the word. Like
my
I
gosh.
was so embarrassed, and of course I had to set it aside and just start over because there's nowhere you can go after terrible.
You can't, and I've done that before too, where it's like you have to think fast. Like, is there anything I can turn these letters into that like
Right.
that still
Right.
makes sense?
That's so funny. Well, Kristen, I know everybody wants to know how you got your start. Everybody, that's kind of a gives us a foundation as we interview somebody to kind of give them a little bit of their background. How did they even choose this vocation? Have you wanted to write your whole life? I know you were a journalist before this, so
Yes.
I'm guessing probably. So tell us a little bit about how you evolved as a writer.
Yeah, in fact, I went into journalism basically as a stop along the way to being an author. This is what I always wanted to do. I've wanted to write books as long as I can remember. My mom will tell you she has a stapled together book I wrote when I was 6. I'm sure I wrote stuff before then, but this is the first, like the oldest one she's found. But it's a stapled together book about the Bobbsey twins going to Ohio, which is where I was living at the time, to solve the mystery of my dad's missing solid gold tuxedo because that was the fanciest
Wow.
thing I could think of. My dad was not a pimp. My dad did not have a solid gold tuxedo. But I mean, it's what I've always wanted to be, except for a brief period of time where I thought I'm going to be a pop star, but that was, yeah, no, that never happened. Um, eh, yeah, I've always wanted to write. So I actually started writing for magazines when I was 16 because I thought I'm so ready for the future to get here. I'm so ready to be a writer, but I don't think I'm ready to write books yet. So I started writing for magazines at 16. I went on to write for People magazine,
Oh my
American
gosh.
Baby,
Do you have
Glamour,
any
Men's
contacts
Health.
there still?
No, not really, which
Oh,
is too
that'd be
bad.
nice
Like
exposure.
it's all changed. But I wrote for them for a long time. I wrote for them for 12 solid years, and then for like a little while afterwards.
That's
Um,
impressive.
Thank you. It was fun. It was an adventure, and it taught me to write well on deadline, which I think has been an invaluable skill as a novelist.
Absolutely. So are you one of those people though who need a deadline? Like that wait until that deadline's breathing down their throat? When I was in Australia, I met Sarah Morgan and we were on a panel together. And she
Yeah.
said that she goes into vampire mode when it gets, closer past her deadline and she's really under pressure to get it done. And as I was even sitting on stage with her, that anxiety started welling up in me because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I could never write under that much pressure. Like I have to lope along and make sure I can meet my deadlines, which may
Yes.
be why I've never really missed one. But because I'm just so anal and worried myself, like, oh no, I can't get myself in trouble. And I was raising 5 kids. So you can't just disappear on 5 kids, for a
You,
month or whatever
you
and finish your
cannot.
book. So do you need that deadline or do you lope
I
along?
need the deadline, but I don't procrastinate in general. So I need the deadline because if I know that a book is due in May, right? Like I can figure out exactly how I need to break that down. Like I need to be done with the research by December, and then I have to write, X number of words per day, 5 days a week, and then I use the weekend to make up the words that I didn't write during the week. So I kind of do it by charts and stuff. It gives me great anxiety too to think about saving it for the last minute or right. But like that really it works for some people. Like they need that fire lit
Yeah.
under them. And then amazing stuff comes out. I mean, I'm jealous. I wish I could do that because you know, for the agony you go through for a few weeks, like think of all the months of work you've saved, you
Yeah,
know?
and then you're off doing. Yeah, I remember also. I used to room with Karen Rose, who writes amazing suspense novels, and she was in the hotel with a light on, sitting on the floor typing all night long because she was beyond her deadline, and she had, you know, and she needs that deadline, so she'd
Oh
kind of
my
put it
God.
off and started late,
Yeah.
and she writes huge novels too. I mean,
Yes.
they're very long. And so I was like, I remember just being, as I was going to bed to get up for classes the next morning, just being astounded that this person
Yes.
would come to the conference and then write all night every night and turn in her book at the end. It was pretty impressive, I have to tell you, because her stuff is good. It's not as if putting it off made it
No,
bad. It
it
just that
is
was her
good. I like
process.
it. It's funny, like that just must be her process. But I am made of sleepier stuff than that. Like if I write for about 6 hours, my brain just kind of shuts off. I mean, honestly, like when I'm nearing the end of a book and I'm nearing the deadline and I'm writing like a typical day for me is probably 2,000 to 3,000 words, like once I'm really in the groove of it. But if I'm nearing a deadline or if I'm like really into it at the very end, sometimes I'll write 5 or 6,000 words a day, which is a lot for
Wow,
me.
that's a lot. It's a lot for
But
me.
I am like at the end of a day like that, like I cannot even string a sentence together, which is unfortunate because I have a husband and a 9-year-old who are counting on me to actually talk
Oh,
to them.
right. So you do kick it. So you have a little bit of a mixture, it sounds like. So give us a picture of what your day to day is like. I mean, do you just get up and hit it hard right away? Do you work regular hours? Are you a night owl? It doesn't
Yeah,
sound like you're much of a
I
night owl.
I mostly work regular hours, but I start early. So I have a 9-year-old who gets up at about 7 to go to school. So I usually try to get up by 6 so that I can get an hour of uninterrupted work in before he's up. Sometimes it's writing, sometimes it's just answering emails so that when I sit down after I've dropped him at school, the plate's kind of clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
start from scratch. But more often than not these days, it's actually work, like writing work I'm doing in the morning. And then I usually write until about 1 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
And at which point I switch gears and do like the business side of things. As only a small percentage of the job of being a writer is actual writing. So,
Right.
you have
Right.
to answer all the emails and exchange all the marketing suggestions and talk to your editor. And, there's a million things. And
Right.
just as you run your book club and your subscription box and all of the asset, different facets of your business, I do that with Friends in Fiction, with the other authors of Friends in Fiction, and that takes up a lot of our time too. So
Right.
um, it's like you just at about 1 o'clock though, I just take off like the writer hat and put on the business hat.
Yeah. Well, you're smart probably to get the writing done first. I tend to kind of procrastinate the writing just in the day. I mean, make sure I don't
Ooh,
procrastinate as
okay.
far as deadlines, but I'll start doing business, and it's so fun to hang out with people in the book group,
Yes.
or be exchanging marketing ideas with Alexa. That the real hard work of trying to create what comes next in my book. Although I will say the book I'm writing right now has been more fun than any book I've probably written for some reason. It's just
Ooh,
pouring out, and when you get one like that, then it is, I actually don't like getting pulled away from it, even for the
yes.
marketing type stuff. It's like, oh shoot, like I was right into this. So
Yep.
sometimes maybe it just depends on the novel you're writing. But tell me, does your son love having an author as a mother? Does he think it's pretty cool having somebody who's famous?
I think for the most part, he's pretty unimpressed. It's actually funny. He's met a lot of my author friends, just at events over the years, who were like a lot of them are big name authors. A handful of them are authors he's read because people like James Ponte or Sarah Mlanovsky who write for middle grade readers, who are big, huge names in middle grade. And he's just like, oh yeah, no, nice to meet you. But then he came home from school last week and he said, we had the coolest substitute in the world today. He was so cool. I asked him for his autograph. And I was like, he was like utterly unimpressed with all of these authors I bring into his life, but he asked his substitute teacher for his autograph.
How cute. That's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, it was
Well,
pretty funny.
my kids growing up, I didn't think they were paying any attention to it. And then we went on this cruise, and my son was maybe about your son's age or a little older, but not much. And he never acted very impressed with what I was doing. And we were sitting on this cruise, and it was just him and I for some reason. All the other rest of the family were doing something else. And then there's a couple sitting, how you sit kind of in a joint area. And this other
Yeah.
couple was sitting there, and what do you do? And the conversation started, and he goes, yeah, like she's a pretty big deal.
Oh,
And
I love that.
I remember remember looking at him going, I mean, of course I wasn't and I'm not, but I just looked at him thinking, that's how you perceive it? Like I
That's
had no idea
awesome.
that that
That's
was your
actually super
perception because
sweet.
you didn't let on. So it was the sweetest thing ever. So it's a moment
I
that I
love
always tease him about because it's one of those tender ones to me, like, oh, I think that was so cute. But
Oh, I really like
anyway, yeah. Yeah. So one question I like to ask our guest authors that's pretty standard is, and we get a different answer every time. I think that's why I do it. Most times, a
that.
lot of people will pick one answer. We'll see if you get there. But what do you think is the most important element? You can only pick one of the writing of a good novel.
Oh man, you can only pick one, huh? I think characters. I think it has to be characters you fall in love with and root for and want to go on a journey with, because if you're going to invest all that time in reading a book, you have to care about the people you're reading about. So I think plot's very important too. But I think it all begins with characters. What's your answer to that question, Brenda?
For me, it's usually conflict,
Okay,
just
cool.
because to me, that's the engine that drives the story forward. So if the
Yep.
conflict isn't really engaging and work for the characters, so I mean, but characters, I can't argue with that. That's hugely important too. And I thought they were way more important than plot until Gone Girl, and then I was like, oh wait,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
not characters that we like, right? So I guess there are
Yeah.
always exceptions to every rule. But generally, I would say you're correct. Like I think most people would say 99% of people would say character, and I think that's probably true.
I'll say to that, I think that the two are just inextricably connected, though, because I mean, you care about the conflicts because you care about the characters, and you care
True.
about the characters because you see them going through the conflict, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like liking a character and caring about a character are sometimes different things. Like you just have to be
Yeah.
invested in the character. So Gone Girl was
Invested. That's a
perfect
good
example.
word.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
I feel like that's our job, to give you a character or characters that you feel invested enough that you want to go on that journey with them throughout the
Right.
course of the book.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think the curiosity that was brought through that novel really carried
Yeah,
it. And so, like you're saying,
completely.
they were invested even if they weren't sure they really liked the character. So
Correct. Yeah.
that's a great way
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
So now is my favorite part. It's the juicy part where
Great.
we have started a new thing since we did a tea box. It kind of gave us the idea. We started doing this spill the tea thing where we go a little deeper and ask some questions that maybe you don't get in other interviews and maybe a little gossipy occasionally. But anyway, so we're going to have spill the tea now. And it's like I said, it's my favorite moment. I think other people have come for it to be theirs as well. But so the first question for Spill the Tea I would like to ask you is, you travel to France frequently for book research. What's the most surprising or unexpected thing you've discovered, good or bad?
Ooh. I would say that doors open if you lead with kindness, which sounds so dorky now that I'm saying it out loud. But I think the first time I went to France, I lived in France 20 years ago, and I moved there with that stereotype in my mind of thinking French people don't like American people, like, which is something I feel like you see in the media, like you see in movies, things like that. And I found that the most helpful thing to start with was just saying in French, I'm sorry, I don't speak French, or trying to speak a little bit of French if you have a grasp of it. And I think just starting on that ground of like mutual respect, like I acknowledge I'm in your country, I acknowledge I should be speaking your language better. If you could help me, I would appreciate it. Like I feel like that. I don't know. It goes so far, and I think that that's a lesson that applies to life too, not just to travel. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. Yeah, no, not going in acting like you should be treated a certain way, like being a little humbler, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that
Yeah.
not expecting everything just to come your way. I think maybe just pushing the way in. But I remember the thing that surprised me most about France is kind of a dumb thing. You probably knew better than to do this. But I went into a grocery store and the cheeses were, I mean, like our cheese, our artisanal cheese section is can be big in some stores, but it was outlandishly big. Like it
Yep.
just ran the entire length of the store, cheese upon cheese upon cheese. So I absolutely loved that. But a funny aside or to that is when I didn't realize that you have to weigh and tag your own vegetables. And so, in
Oh.
America, you don't. So I went through the whole, and I'm getting all these apples and all these things, and I'm going through the checkout register with the group I was with, and it stopped the whole line. And the checker
Oh
was a little
no.
perturbed because they're like, they're trying to tell me you have to go get this for me, and I don't
No.
understand what they're saying because they speak
Oh,
French.
no.
You know,
Yeah.
so I'm holding all these bags going, I'm just trying to buy this. I don't know what I've done wrong. And so it was just kind of funny. So they helped me out eventually. We got out of there. But I remember now when I return, I will know that there's more you have to do in the produce section in a French store.
That is a very good tip.
Have you ever run into that?
No, which is weird listening to you talk about it because I don't think I have. So either you know what though? When I lived in France, I think I typically bought most of my produce at farmers markets, which was
Oh,
probably different because we had one right near where I lived. So
yeah.
it made more sense to just go and buy the fresh produce. And then when I've gone back, I almost always go into a grocery store because I almost always have a picnic by the Eiffel
Yeah.
Tower because why would
Oh,
you not when you're in
nice.
France? Um,
Right.
but maybe this means that I should look into my nutritional deficiencies, but I think I buy like cheese, meat, bread, and no produce.
Oh my
So
goodness. Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. Well, when you're there, it's so hard not to do that. They have the best. I mean, my gosh, the breads and the cheeses, like I said, were out of this world. So,
so good. Yep.
yeah. So, anyway, speaking of French food is legendary. But
Yes.
is there one dish or delicacy that you could just not warm up to?
It took me a long time to warm up to escargot, just because the
Wow.
concept grossed me out, right? Like it's
Yeah.
snails, and that seems
Yeah.
gross, and they're kind of slimy. But I will tell you, I was repulsed by the thought living in France, and we have a next door neighbor who makes the best escargot here in Florida, where I live now, and it has completely reversed my opinion about escargot.
Oh,
So it's a
wow.
good lesson for me to keep an open mind. I thought like I would never eat this, and now I just am like, oh, escargots for dinner sounds great.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know that
How
I could
about you?
overcome that mental barrier. I have what you had. And so I don't know if I could do that, but when I went to France when I was, gosh, I think it was back when I was like 16, I had the best lasagna there I've had anywhere, even Italy.
Okay.
So it's like has, it was very saucy. It was like a dish, almost like a boat-like dish, and it was so full of wonderful sauces and stuff that it was amazing. So I'll never forget that. That was actually a positive thing.
Oh,
But
good.
I just went to Australia, and one thing, it was so funny. I knew what Marmite is because I tried it in the UK. I knew what to expect of Vegemite, that it's sort of similar. And for some reason, my husband thought claimed that Vegemite was like Nutella. And I'm like,
Oh.
I never said that. So anyway, he puts it on his toast, and he takes a bite, and he hated it. He gives me this look like I had, misled him. And I'm like, I never said it was Nutella. Like, what made you think it was Nutella? So I have some Vegemite I brought back, and I'm going to make Megan try it tonight after
Oh
we
my
have our little
god.
interview, so she'll get to see what it's like.
I
I
cannot
actually don't mind
imagine
it.
I can't imagine biting into that thinking it was gonna be like a chocolate hazelnut taste. I mean, like, that would make
Right.
it 10 times worse, just like,
I
that's
think
not
that's
what
what
this
made it
is.
bad. If I had told him it was savory to begin with, I think
Yeah.
he probably would have had, a different reaction. But I also tried kangaroo meat, which was, I mean, kangaroo's so common there, they're like deer here. And the texture of it seemed kind of grainy to me. I wasn't a big
Okay.
fan, but I'm mostly a plant-based eater, so I don't eat a lot of meat anyway. So maybe that was kind of tainted
Oh, oh, yeah,
Have you ever
okay.
tried it?
No,
Yeah. Have you ever been to Australia?
No, and I would really like to, especially after following all your travels. I mean, it looked like such an incredible trip. Every day I'd see something pop up on Facebook or Instagram, and I would just be like, "Oh my god, like that's the best trip." It looks like you had
It
such
was
a great
fun.
adventure.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I got to go. It was really fun, but watching you in France, I think, is very appealing as well. So I don't know if you have anything to envy. That's the trips you have there are pretty, yeah, stellar.
The difference is your most recent trip to Australia was the way that a sane person would travel. You went to a place and you stayed for a while. My most recent trip to France was a research trip that I had to wedge in between a million other obligations. So I was in Paris for 24 and a half hours, which is
Oh,
not the same
wow.
way to go to
Whoa.
another country.
No, no, that's actually the length of time I was there. Maybe, well, I was there a little shorter. I was on my way to Italy. And no,
Okay.
was it Italy? Who did I have? No, Egypt. It was Egypt. It was a trip
Oh,
to
wow.
Egypt. And I
Cool.
had
Okay.
a good friend, Dana, and Alexa with me, and then my husband. And we had such a long layover that we dashed out to see the Eiffel Tower
So
and have,
great.
some of the I always get it. Macarons
Macaron.
are the ones here.
Macaron.
Macaroons are the ones there, right?
Macaron, macaron. So the macaroons, I think, are the ones here, like that have like coconut and stuff, right?
Okay.
Macarons are the ones they have there, which are like
Okay, I
the
switched them.
beautiful, colorful. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and they don't taste anything like people try to recreate them in the States, but I have yet to taste one that tastes the same as the ones we had in Paris.
Do you know what actually tastes similar? The ones
Huh.
from Trader Joe's in the frozen section.
Really? Oh
Not
my
kidding. Yep,
gosh.
they're like maybe $5 for 10 or 12 of them, and you just defrost them, and thirty minutes later, to me, they taste just like one of the ones, well,
I'm
not
definitely
just
gonna
like,
do
but
that
almost like. Yeah.
because I like it's the texture that
Yeah,
changes.
it's
It's
the
not
texture.
necessarily the flavor for me, that soft kind of airy smush.
Yep,
The ones here get kind of gummy, like they'll
yep,
cave but get
agreed.
gummy, but those don't. So I'm glad you gave me that lead.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna look for that. So next on our tea event, our spill the tea section, what's one of those I can't believe that just happened moments from an event or an interview?
So, I was on book tour this summer for The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau, the book we're here to talk about. And one of the stops I had was at a bookstore called An Unlikely Story, which is in Plainville, Massachusetts, maybe about 45 minutes outside of Boston. And it's owned by Jeff Kinney, who is the author of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. And before I went there, I was asking a bunch of my author friends, like who had also gone there, do you actually get to meet him? Because I really wanted to meet him because my son is so into his books. And I am too, because if my son's reading it, I'm interested in it. And, I try to read it too. So I also am a fan of the books. And everyone said, like, no, like I haven't met him. I've been, I've done a couple of events there. He hasn't been there. So I went there thinking, all right, well, it's really cool to be at his store, but I'm not going to meet him. Well, he wound up coming to my event with his wife, which was
Oh
so
my
sweet.
gosh.
But he came over and said, I came because my wife likes your books, which was so flattering. And I said, that's crazy because my son loves your books. And he said, do you think he's around right now? Do you want to call him on FaceTime and I can give him a tour of my studio? And I was like, oh my gosh. So it was the nicest offer and the sweetest thing. Like I got pulled into another conversation, but he took my phone talking to my son, went up to the top floor of the bookstore, which is where his studio is, where he does the art and does the writing, and took Noah on a tour. It was
Oh my
incredible.
gosh.
And I will
That's
never forget it. It was
wonderful.
like the coolest moment on my book tour.
So nice of him. That's so nice of him. This story is a little bit like that. It was a moment that just shocked me. It wasn't at an
Yeah.
event, but I got onto a plane because people always say, "Do you ever see people reading your book on a plane and stuff?" And sometimes, you do, which makes it very exciting. But this isn't one of those stories. But there was an opening between a distinguished looking gentleman and a lovely woman in the middle seat. And so I said, the plane was full. I had to sit there. So I sit there
Yeah.
and I'm careful on planes if I have to work because I really make use of that time. So I'm
Yeah.
being
Same.
careful not to really look either way because I really didn't want to engage anybody. I wanted to be able to work. So we all sit very, like this. And then they start talking over me. And I realize, oh, they're married. So
Oh,
they're visiting. So she's turned this way and he's kind of turning this way. And I'm, in the middle. I get out my laptop and start
yeah.
tapping away. He gets out his laptop. He starts tapping away and he's tapping fast and I'm tapping fast and time's going by and I can see his wife, kind of looking and looking at me. And finally she catches my eye. I finally allow it. And she catches my eye and she goes, "Are you a writer?" And I said, yeah, I am. And she goes, "Oh, so's my husband." And I said, "Oh, really?" And she goes, "Yeah, this is Ridley Pearson." And so I actually had taken a seat next to another writer who was also working on a book,
That's
and we were on our way
crazy.
to New York. So it was just kind of a random fun meeting where I got to bump into this guy whose books I'd
That
read, and yeah, and meet his wife.
Oh my
So
gosh, that is crazy.
small
Okay,
world.
but that also makes me think, you can type on a plane because I'm not good. Like I get my best work done on a plane, but only if I have it printed out. And I am the best
Oh,
editor in the entire world on a plane. I'm a
oh,
terrible editor anywhere else because I get so distracted. But if I'm sitting in an airplane seat and I have nowhere else to go and I have 300 manuscript pages printed out, I will get through those 300 manuscript pages
wow,
and the edit will
wow.
be good, but I can't write from scratch on a plane. I'm too distracted. You can do that, huh?
I can, but it does make me
Okay.
feel self-conscious because you're thinking people are watching you. And when you're writing something, or at least for me, when I'm
Yes.
writing something that I may change, I
Yep.
don't want to be judged on that one page or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm just
Yes.
getting thoughts out here. But you kind of feel like people are bored. So they're kind of like, what's she doing? Looking through the crack of the seat or whatever.
Completely.
So sometimes that'll make me a little self-conscious, but it depends on how much pressure I'm under to get my pages done. Sometimes I'll be like, whatever, but I'm
That
just gonna
makes
move
sense.
forward. But Yeah. Anyway, so all right. Next question. If you could take readers on a book inspired tour of France, what's one spot you'd insist we see?
Um, there's a spot I keep putting into my books, and it would be selfish for me to insist anybody go there because it is just really a place that means something to me. Like everyone else would be like, "Great, we're on a street." But when I lived in Paris, in my early 20s, I lived in an apartment that was right next door to the American Library in Paris, and at the end of the street, like a block and a half away, was the Eiffel Tower. So like it was amazing. Like you could look out our living room window, our bathroom window, our kitchen window, and you could see the Eiffel Tower. But if you stand outside the building, to me, it's the prettiest view of the Eiffel Tower in Paris because you're seeing
Oh,
it like at the end of a street over some rooftops and some trees, and then it's just enormous. It just looms there. But I have put that apartment, like not the interior of the apartment, but that location in multiple books. So like if you've read multiple books of mine, like that is a location that comes up again and again and
kind of
again.
like a little Easter egg for people that read all of them.
Yes, like an Easter egg, and I'll tell you in a minute if you're curious. I have two other Easter eggs I can tell you about, but this one's more like that was just the center of my life in Paris, and so it becomes, in a lot of ways, the center of my books' lives in Paris. And it's actually,
Oh,
I was on tour in the summer of no, April of 2013. And I was by myself. I was meeting up with an old friend in Paris. We had dinner, and she insisted we go by the old apartment, which was so weird. I wasn't feeling well. I didn't want to. And it turned out she was insisting because my boyfriend at the time had contacted her and came over and proposed to me in front of, like,
oh my
he flew to
gosh.
Paris to surprise me,
What
to
a
propose
story.
outside my old apartment. So like that is a place,
Wow.
like that little sidewalk there is where I get engaged. And like
Oh
so
my
much of my life
gosh.
is centered around that little apartment.
Well, I love that story. That's so romantic. Oh,
Oh,
I'm glad we had
thanks.
that question on here. It led to a great place. Yeah. When do they still have a restaurant on the second floor of the Eiffel Tower? I remember eating there years and years ago. I don't know if that's still a thing.
I think they do. I have not been up in the Eiffel Tower in 2 years, and we went up. I took my husband and my son 2 Octobers ago, so October of 23. And I think there was still a restaurant there, but I couldn't swear to it because we didn't eat there. We just went up
Yeah.
and looked out and saw the site. So I can't
Yeah.
remember.
I'll have to check it out next time I get there. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to get back there. That'd be fun. And when are you going back? Do you have plans?
So I was just there a couple of weeks ago for research, which kind of scratched my Paris itch in the short term. Um,
Okay.
but maybe, possibly this spring.
Ah,
Maybe. Yeah. How
okay.
about you? Do you have plans to go back, or do you have plans to travel?
Well, we are going to be going back to Italy because we want to. I want to do. We were there a year ago, and wait, 2 years ago now. It'll be 2 years by the time we get back. 2 years in between Lex's wedding and this. But we're going to promo the book. Meet me in Italy. We're going to go back to Italy
Oh,
and
of
then just
course. Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
make
Of
sure we
course, you're
put
talking
together
about.
a video
Yeah,
montage of everything that the
that's
characters
so
because we
cool.
didn't think to do that at first. I was just there for the wedding, and then I ended up writing this book, and now I want to take everybody on the same journey. So we're going to go back and do some things next March. But and so maybe we'll be able to make it to Paris. Kind of, you spend so much time traveling that, like you say, you may as well spend some time because getting over there is not
Yeah.
really quick usually. So,
Well,
well, I guess it's better than India or Egypt or even Australia, but still.
no, but when I was just there, I literally flew over on a Thursday evening, landed Friday morning, got into Paris about 12:30, was there until the next day at 1 p.m. and then left and flew home. So yes, it does take longer to get there than like I actually spent there.
Wow, yeah, that's quick. I mean, yeah.
It was
So
a little insane, but yeah, no, you should. You know what? We should plan like a little meetup. I'll meet you in Italy. You meet me in
that wouldn't
Paris.
that be fun? Because you have
It
a new
would be
book
fun.
coming out that's titled very similar to mine, right? So mine's called
Yes.
Meet Me in Italy, and yours is?
Mine is Meet Me in Paris. And when you announced the title of your book, I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Because I knew we were doing obviously this subscription box together and we were going to have this chat. And I'm like, this is absolutely insane that we came up with almost the exact same title for our book.
That would be so fun to have you meet me in Italy and do a thing, and I would meet you in Paris. Oh my
That would
gosh.
be
We'll have to
so much
try and
fun.
see if we can figure something like that out. I tried to meet Sonali Dev, who I had in the book group in March. She was visiting India at the same time I was visiting India, but she was down
Oh,
south in Mumbai, and I was up north doing the camel markets and all that kind of stuff, and the Blue City and in Jaipur. Anyway, so she and I were too far apart to hook up, but we really wanted to. It would have been so cool, but I was on like an organized tour.
yes.
So
Oh,
you know what I
yeah,
mean,
that
where
would
you
have been
fly
hard.
in, and so she would have had to come to me, and that was just pretty far away. But anyway, something like that, if it worked out, would be,
That'd be
oh my
so
gosh,
fun.
I would love it. We should see if we can do that. So, okay, one last spill the tea question, and then
Sure.
we'll get to move on and talk more specifically about your great new book. Well, it's not
Thanks.
so new anymore. It's been out for a few weeks.
Pretty new.
Pretty new.
Right.
Your newest. How about that?
The newest,
Okay,
exactly.
so what's one of your craziest stories from when you were a journalist? Did you have anything crazy happen?
I did a lot of so I worked for People's Miami Bureau back when we had a bureau system. So I did a little bit of everything. I did celebrity stuff. I did
You
like
did
the
sports stuff, right? Which was
I did
surprised me
do
when I read
sports
that.
stuff. I did. I started off as a sports journalist actually a long time ago. But one of the most interesting things that happened to me at People was really early in my time working for them. I think I was still in my senior year of college. And I got sent to Atlanta because a sheriff named Derwin Brown had been assassinated in his driveway. So he was the sheriff elect for a county outside Atlanta. He had been killed in his driveway, and the thought was that it was like a plot to like silence him because he knew something.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I flew to Georgia to cover this. And as I was covering it, it began to come out that the suspicion was that the current was the one who had ordered the hit. So it was like something out of like a crazy movie.
Yeah.
Um, and I was there covering it. I was one of the only people from the national media at that point. It later became a national story. But I was in my hotel room one night and the fire alarm went off in the hotel room.
Yeah.
And I mean, of all the times you've traveled, fire alarm, that's not a common thing to happen. Um,
Yeah.
I freaked out because I thought, I mean, I still to this day don't know. It could have just been a fire alarm, but I really thought that like someone had pulled the fire alarm to get me out of my room to like,
Oh,
I mean, I know that sounds insane, but it
yeah.
was
No, that's scary. You never
the thing
know.
was insane. And I had just been at the funeral the day before or that day. And the guy who we thought was behind it sat right in front of me and like turned around and just gave me this like death stare. And then the fire alarm thing happened and I was like, oh my God, I'm dead. So like I didn't leave my room. I like lay down between the
Oh,
two beds. Like if they're shooting into the room, like this seems like the safest
oh
place to be.
no.
And you
Oh,
couldn't call the police because the police were the bad guys. It was so
oh
scary.
wow. That's a great story. I'm glad
It
that
was
you're okay.
crazy.
And did they ever solve who did it?
Yeah, yes, it was the current sheriff behind
It
it.
really was.
It really was.
So that whole saying where there's smoke, there's fire, that sort of applies there,
Yep.
right? Wow.
Yep.
Well, luckily not for you. I mean, there wasn't a real fire. You were safe, right?
Thank God, right? Yeah. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yep.
That's crazy. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Wow.
It was crazy. It was like, oh, this is what journalism is. All right.
Well, yeah, sadly, I think it's a difficult time period to be a journalist now, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It does
It's
seem like
very,
it. Yeah.
very
Yeah. Very
difficult because
challenging.
everybody's like, yeah, well, it's like, who do you believe? And you're lying. And
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like their credibility has been attacked. And so
Yeah.
before, if a journalist said it, you trusted they checked their sources, and
Yeah.
that whole thing is kind of flipped. So very interesting
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
But
It
anyway,
is.
now we get to talk about the stolen
Yay.
life of Colette Marceau, and
Me
I'm
too.
excited to get into this. This story is about jewel thieves. It's about I love how you weave the two timelines together. I'm a particular fan of that type of thing. I love, but maybe because I love historicals so much, like that's probably
Oh,
my
that's
first
awesome.
love is
Oh, wow. Okay.
historicals. Yeah, so it wove it together seamlessly, and it was lovely. And I also love that you chose an older heroine. You don't see that a whole lot, an octogenarian,
Yep.
and made her loving and appealing. And not that they aren't anyway, but it's just I think sometimes writers don't even really consider writing on the
Yep.
extreme end of age, either very young or either very old.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then I love that there was part mystery, and you had, things that you were solving in here. There was, and the suspense, when she was dealing with the
Thank you.
jewelry heists, and so all the feels, and which was really, really fun. So We're going to start off with our first reader question. This is from
Yeah.
Sydney Kaiser. She said, what gave you the inspiration for this book?
That is a great question. So, I've written several books set in France during World War II. And most of those books have centered in some way around the French resistance. I'm really interested in what made members of the resistance do what they did. What would make you stand up at the risk of your own life for a bigger, greater cause, for essentially for other people, for your country, for like all of these things that put your immediate life and sometimes the life of your family in danger. Um, but one of the things that people did for the resistance, and I've talked about in books, I've talked about arms smuggling through champagne caves in The Winemaker's Wife. I've talked about document forgery in the Book of Lost Names. I've talked about pilots getting pilots from one point to another on an escape line in the room on Rue Amélie. But one of the things I hadn't really tackled was how some resistance movements were funded. And one of the ways they were funded was theft. So I think the nugget of inspiration for this, aside from just being interested in the French resistance, was thinking about what if I had someone who was stealing for the French resistance, which was a thing, which was, one of the ways in which they funded some of their missions. And what if that person continued to steal after the war was over? And then, we talked earlier about, what's the most important component of a book. And so for me, working backwards from this character who would do something like that, I had to think, why was she stealing in the first place? Why was it so important to her to steal that she continued stealing after the war? What in her background made her do that? And so that kind of working backwards gave me a character whose mother was also a thief and who believed that she came from a long line of jewel thieves. Because if she felt that this was a hundreds of years old tradition, she would feel she had no choice but to continue to honor it. And then it was interesting working forward and thinking about, how do you rationalize an illegal act like that to yourself when you're not in a time of war, when it's not life and death, when you're just stealing because you think you have the right to rebalance the scales of justice. So I have always felt that this character was a very virtuous character. She thought she was doing the right thing. She was stealing for the right reasons. But just because you believe you're right and you're doing the right thing doesn't mean that you really are. So that was a really interesting thing for me to play with.
Yeah.
That's kind of where the idea came from.
Yeah, it made me wonder as I was reading, did your
Yeah.
publisher at any point ever say, hey, I mean, this is going to be a tough thing to justify, like what you just talked about, because if we all took the justice system into our own hands, the entire thing would fall apart, right? I mean, it wouldn't work anymore.
100%.
So, and I think you do a good job of walking that tightrope for
Yeah.
sure. But it did make me wonder if you ever had to have a difficult conversation with your editor to say, no, I think it can work because her background justifies it, the situation
Yeah.
justifies it. I mean, how did you ever have to have that, or they just kind of were like, no, that's cool?
I don't think they ever really had a problem with it because I think it's something that's wrestled with throughout the book. Like, it's not like I just say like, oh, she's a jewel thief and that's it. And like, it never gets discussed. Like, she has a good friend named Aviva who she's has like almost a mother-daughter relationship with. And Aviva really questions it. And I think Aviva questioning it to me was like the voice of the reader questioning it.
Right.
And I wanted Colette to justify it to Aviva, but I wanted Aviva to push back. So I think the fact that I didn't ignore that I instead like tackled it, probably made it less objectionable to the editor.
You were able to front run it, and it gave you the opportunity to explain. So I thought that was a really wise way to go too. Carrie Mosley says, I adore the cover, which I do too. I think it's just spectacular.
Oh, I love it too. Isn't it so pretty? I love that cover.
They nailed it. They really knocked it.
They really did
with this.
Yeah.
It made it. I mean, you want to buy it just for the cover, even if the story, the story is great, but the cover. I buy books by covers. To me, they're art. So I just love it. Sonia, she said, were you involved in the making of the cover or in making suggestions about what you wanted on it, or is that just all the publisher? So was this an iteration or what they came up with right away, or how did that work?
I think it actually took them a while to come to this cover because it's kind of a new look for me. My previous books, several of my previous books were basically all women from the back, right? Which is like the thing that you see all the time in historical fiction. And there was just some talk internally about like, let's come up with sort of a new cohesive look for Kristin that skews a little bit more upmarket, that skews a little bit bigger book. And so this took a long time to get to because my publisher, Jen Bergstrom, who's wonderful, kept, I think, going back to the art department again and again and saying, it's not quite right. It's not quite right. And in this case, they didn't show this to me until they were almost here. And what I saw, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, when they finally sent this, were 4 covers that looked almost all exactly like this, like all with the same color, but just different fonts. So they had almost gotten here. They had almost nailed it. I love it. But I that actually reminds me of something interesting in that. And I'm curious to hear what your experience is with this too, Brenda. But different territories have different covers and sometimes even different titles for the same book. So this is the US book, the one that you all get in the subscription box. This is the UK book, the exact same book.
Oh, wow.
Called All the Diamonds in Paris in the UK, which is a title that actually makes a little bit more sense for the book. But it's this cover, which is also beautiful.
It is gorgeous, but a little less fanciful, maybe more realistic.
Yeah.
You say?
Yeah, it is.
I think it is interesting to see how things differ. The covers they came up with for my Evelyn Talbot series, which is a suspense series I did with St. Martin's, were in Italy, were so like stark and just like a building and all about Alaska. I guess there's a huge curiosity about Alaska because that's where the book was set. So like you, I just love seeing how they come in so different and getting those foreign copies. Sometimes, I don't know, maybe your publisher is better about notifying you, but mine just kind of show up out of the blue and I'll be like, oh, this is what they did for this market. This is what they did for that market. And they're all different.
Okay, so I have to ask you this, Brenda. When yours show up, do you get 1 or do you get like 8 to 10? Because I get a box of 8 to 10 and I have like they have taken over our entire house. Like I don't know what to do with them because it's like you get, 10 books in Dutch and it's like I don't know anyone who speaks Dutch, but I can't throw these books out. So like they're beautiful and they're mine and like I love books. So
it's such a hard decision because after writing 80 books, I have so many foreign copies and they used to send me as many as they send you, but I think this is the year of efficiency for HarperCollins because they are dialing back on everything. Like now I get 3. Like I used to get 10 of my book in the library edition in hardcover, and now I get like 2 in a bubble wrap, or you know what I mean. So it's they've really cut back on everything, and it's kind of their year of efficiency. So
that is probably
so
smart.
I'm down to only 3 with the foreign copies. I definitely am not going to complain because I did not know, like you, I did not know what to do with them. The Spanish editions I could give away. Other than that, maybe a French edition here or there to my children's high school French teacher or something. But other than that, there really wasn't. I didn't have anything to do with them either, and they were just piling up. I did finally just take them to the library. I had a library that was willing to take them, but then I don't know what they did from there.
Oh, that's smart though. Okay, maybe I should look into that. Okay, all right.
Yeah, maybe. Cool. I don't know if they still will because I even just tried taking English copies, and they have this whole new process where you have to donate through the main central library and all that. And I'm like, wow, you're making it hard just to give you books.
Wow, it's a lot of hoops to jump through to give somebody a gift.
yeah. Like, okay, because I live out, farther in the suburbs. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm willing to drive all the way downtown to try and enter it in this system. And so anyway, back to your interview. Janet Roble said, I was wondering how Kristin came up with the idea of the Robin Hood theme. She did it so beautifully with the historical setting. So you kind of went over how you came up with that. Did you want to add anything more to that?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Thank you for that. It's kind of what we were just talking about, that I was working backwards, trying to figure out what the motivation would be for a character who steals, whose mother steals, who has a family tradition of stealing. And I thought, why would you have a family tradition of stealing? And that led me back to reading about Robin Hood, which I initially read about kind of just for inspiration. I mean, I don't know about you, Brenda, but for me, like, I love falling down a research rabbit hole. Like I love it, but also I think part of loving it is that it, like, if I'm researching, I don't have to be writing. So it's like my way to procrastinate actually beginning the book. But I fell down the Robin Hood research rabbit hole. And the further down that rabbit hole I fell, because again, I was just reading it for inspiration. This is somebody who was a famous, at least as far as legend goes, a famous jewel thief, right? But I went into it thinking Robin Hood was a legend, and that was all. And what I found from reading books about him was that there's a big or a large segment of historians who think he actually lived, that he actually was real. And that led me to thinking, okay, well, if he was actually real, then presumably he would have had children who had children who had children. And like, if you descended from somebody like Robin Hood, wouldn't that story continue to be passed down to your children? And I thought, well, wait, my
That
character could
fits.
be
Yeah,
descended from Robin Hood. And then
perfect.
all the research wouldn't be wasted. And so there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, yeah. Oftentimes, just reading different various facets of history will spark an idea. So
Yeah.
I will also sometimes do that. I'm glad you were able to incorporate that. Sometimes, though, do you
Yeah.
ever get tempted to like you'll find out cool things that don't actually pertain to your book, but it's so
Yes.
hard not to like add in the whole thing. 'Cause it's just fascinating what you're learning. So I have to be careful. I write my book first and then research what I need a lot of times
Ooh, okay.
because otherwise I just will I'll be like, oh, this is so great. I want to put it all
Yep.
in here so they all know how it was or what it was like. And so I have to hit that balance of enough to give me the ideas and have a firm foundation, but not such that I'm just really just want to do all these info dumps of
Of
all this
course.
fantastic information of the past. So
Well,
for me,
and
it's back and forth.
that's really the balance. I mean, because you know, 100 times more from the research than you actually are able to put into the book. And it's hard not to. It's hard not to say, but I know this. Like, don't you want 20 pages about like
Right.
what how people sewed in 1700? I don't know.
Yeah.
But well, I don't know why I came up with that. For me, one
Well,
of the
they were
things that
called
helps me
needle women and they were fascinating. I mean, they went blind. They would be in garrets
isn't it?
and the stitches
Yeah.
were so small and they were trying to do it by candlelight that they would literally go blind
Yeah.
with this profession. So even that, like you say, is interesting to me for some reason.
It's
I just think all
interesting.
that, yeah.
That's it. But what I try to do is if I come across something that I think this really fascinates me, but it doesn't fit into this book, that kind of gets tucked away in the back of my head for a future
Uh,
book. And a
yeah,
lot of my future books have come from ideas I've come across in the research for the
yeah.
previous book, but that I haven't been able to shake. Like if it's still living up here, I'm like, okay, this is something I might want to use for something someday.
So you have a mental tickler file. I now have to write it down or I will forget it as I get older.
I deliberately don't write it down because if I write it down, then sometimes that's why I remember. If I don't write it down, but it's still up here, I know it's something worth exploring. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
that's the test to myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like that test. Donna Burrows wants to know, did your story develop as you moved forward, or did you basically have it developed before you began? So I think this is the pantser or plotter question that we
It
often
is
get.
the pantser and plotter question. It's a great question, and I'm curious what your answer is too. I am very much a plotter. I outline in great detail. And I think sometimes when you hear outline, you think like a bulleted outline. I write just as it comes to me. And my outlines wind up being about 20 to 25,000 words, which is about a
That's a
quarter
lot.
to it's about a fifth to a quarter of a finished book for me.
Yeah.
But some of the chapters I'll only have a paragraph about. Some of the chapters are almost complete because all the dialogue and all the thoughts and everything comes to me. It's just basically going back and writing it in better words and with more research filled in. So I'm an extreme outliner. How about you, Brenda?
Oh my gosh, I am the opposite. If
Oh,
I
I'm so
outline, I
jealous.
feel like I've already told myself the story and I have no interest in diving back into it. It's like, okay, I already know what happens. So I have to kind of not know as I go
Fascinating.
along.
Okay.
So yeah, so kind of the opposite there. But
Yeah.
Deborah Colomb wants to know, she said, how did you do the research for this story? I mean, you lived it, how long were you in France that you lived there and had
Well,
that
I
kind of
lived
lead
there
on?
just for a summer, and that was slightly over 20 years ago. It was a long time ago, but I've gone back almost every year. It's harder now that I have a 9-year-old. I mean, I used to go back more regularly. I certainly didn't go during the pandemic, and now it's probably I go maybe every second year. But I've just spent a lot of time in Paris over the years, so I would say that was a big component of the research. But just in general, in terms of research, I usually start with reading everything I can get my hands on. So just like we were talking about with Robin Hood, like I read way more about Robin Hood than I ever needed or ever
Right.
conceivably could have needed. But like I want to know all of it so that I know what I need to use. I
Right.
did the same thing with jewelry design and I did the same thing with jewelry theft. And people ask me sometimes how I came up with like how she stole the jewels. And I have read memoirs by jewel thieves, but they don't give you a how-to, unfortunately. How rude.
Right.
But you know what does give you a how-to? Magician videos on like how to
Oh,
magic videos. Because think about it, if you
smart.
go
That
to a
was
magic
clever. How
show,
did you think of that?
because when you go to a magic show, there's often a trick where they steal a watch or steal a ring or steal a necklace. And it's all about misdirection and distraction. And then there's a method to it. So watching a lot of those kind of videos and reading about how to do that really gave me the basis for how to make Colette steal, because it's exactly the same thing.
You should do some kind of reader event where you try and pull off a little theft and then give it back at the end. That would be hilarious, right? Like, look what Kristen walked away with. You didn't even know it, but she's got your wedding ring.
Better yet, Brenda, maybe I just shouldn't tell them that they're in that kind of event and I could just walk away with their wedding ring. No one
There
will
you
ever
go.
know it was me.
That would be a
I'm
real
just
story.
kidding.
I would write that true life story for you. Cindy Newland wants to know, who was the hardest character to develop?
Um, Maybe Aviva, because I needed her. I just wanted her to be, but I needed her to serve a purpose in the story, which was to really question Colette, and a lot of her character had to develop around that. For me, characters develop really organically, and even sometimes I'll have them doing stuff at the outline stage that once I begin writing and I get to know the characters, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. This character isn't that person. This character wouldn't do that. So Aviva was probably the one that I had to do the most tinkering with to make her do the things I needed to have her do, which required some adjustments. But I will tell you, the character I was saddest to like see less of was Lucas's grandfather. What Lucas's grandfather, because there were more scenes from his perspective in my first draft, and
Oh, so you had to
helped
cut
set
some
it
of those
out.
out?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you ever give like those deleted scenes out to your readers via newsletter or anything? Is that ever
I
anything you
have done
consider?
that before, but in this case, it wouldn't have made sense because the reasons that we had to delete the scenes had to do with an adjustment to the plot. And once I adjusted the plot, those scenes no longer served the story. And so like it would have been like I was telling you a different story, if that makes sense. Like there was a different,
Right. It'd be
yeah. So
confusing.
which is too bad because you do feel like you wasted all that time writing those chapters. But
Right.
yeah, yeah.
How many did you have to lose?
Think I had 6 from his viewpoint, which was a lot to lose. But
Yeah.
it was the right choice for the story. This was working with my longtime editor Abby, who's never been wrong about a big thing. Like sometimes I disagree on the little things, as I think
Right.
is normal to do with an editor, but I trust her entirely when it comes to the big stuff.
Is there anything you think you'll be able to salvage later that you and use for something else? Something about the character, something about the no?
Probably not, but I think that I think that they served a purpose because they illuminated the story for me and they showed me the way I needed to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Um, you've brought so much history to life in your novels. If you could time travel to any one moment in history for a day, where would you go?
If I could travel to a moment in history,
Yeah.
gosh, that's a great question. I would have loved to know Anne Frank. I have always been so inspired by her.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have. Oh, so you know what? I either would have gone to um, Amsterdam before World War II, so I could have met her as a little girl, or I would have gone to 1920s Paris with Hemingway and Fitzgerald and that whole gang of writers that comes so beautifully alive in Hemingway's A Movable Feast. Kind of. There's a movie with Owen Wilson called Midnight in Paris that's kind of like that wish fulfillment for me. So I
Oh,
think that would have been a really neat thing too, to just go spend a day with all of these literary greats in my favorite city in the world.
right, right. Oh,
How
that's
about
wonderful.
you? How about you? Where would you
That is
go?
such a hard question. I was just
It is a hard
thinking,
question.
where would I want to go? So I'm thinking, I can't believe I gave her such a hard question that I don't even know how I would answer it myself. But probably Victorian England, just a day in Victorian England. I'm just so curious about what it would be like to have lived back then. And I love books set in that time
Yeah.
period. So probably just a day there, or even maybe in like I'm watching The Last Kingdom,
Hmm.
which I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix. It's fabulous. I mean, I wish now that I didn't even realize they were books when I started reading
Oh,
it
okay.
or watching it.
Yeah.
So I should have read Bernard Cornwell's books first. I'm sure they're probably way better even. But I got captured by this series because it keeps me working out. So I watch it when I work out. So I save them because I love them so much, like only one per day, so that I can,
Oh, that's
milk this as
awesome.
long as it can. But the plotting of it's just fabulous. And just
So cool.
it's such a brutal time period that I don't know if that would be like the Miniford Cheevy poem, that talks about how he is so romanticizes the past. I probably do the
Yeah.
same thing, and the
Yep.
reality
Yeah.
would not be thrilling.
Yes.
But I still would be curious enough if you only have to spend a day, like in medieval times, and all the fighting between the Vikings and all these different kingdoms, the
Yeah.
Saxons and the Britons, and I just the Mercians. I just think it would be interesting to be there too. So that
Yeah.
might be one for me.
Yeah.
Or I don't know that I'm very curious about the age of piracy. So I would
Ooh,
love,
interesting.
like the
Okay.
late
Yeah.
1600s, early 1700s
Yeah.
being in, the colonies or in, Jamaica. It would be interesting. I don't know, just to
Yeah.
see how it all actually
Yeah.
plays out. So I just
Yeah.
love history. Happy to
Yeah.
visit it through the pages because like I said, it's probably more romanticized in my
Absolutely.
mind than the
That is
reality
true.
was.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, definitely interesting to me. So Monica Karpinski says, do you get dressed up for Halloween? If so, as what?
Um, I used to, but I don't really anymore. I have a shirt that says "Ghouls just want to have fun" that I usually wear on
Oh,
Halloween.
cute.
Sometimes with
That's
like cat
cute.
ears or something, or a little witch hat. But my son's still in that trick or treating age, so I usually have that shirt on and something on my head and go around with him.
Well, last year I was out of town for Halloween, so I missed dressing up. But the year before that, I did this full-on angel thing. Like
Oh,
Megan, my
oh yes.
daughter's kind of gotten
Oh,
me
I've
into
seen your
it.
pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I try and go a little bit bigger now the past few years, and I've been having a blast with it. So I need to figure out what I'm doing this year because we're going
Oh,
to
I
have
can't wait to
a
see.
costume party as a Zoom after party of our holiday or of our next book group meeting because it's
That
going to be
is
October
so
30th,
fun.
right?
Oh, I'm gonna
So
have
we'll
to
have
come.
people take,
I'm
yeah,
gonna have to
come.
tune in.
Yeah,
I can't
because
wait.
people are going to take pictures of themselves and be entered to win prizes. And so
That's
we'll all
awesome.
get dressed up and figure out what we're going to be. So I'm excited about that. So we're going to turn the book group meeting into a Halloween party. So
Awesome.
anyway, one last question, Kristen, and then I'll let you get on your way this evening. If readers could only remember one powerful idea from this book, what would you want it to be?
Um, that it's never too late to ask yourself what you really want out of life. I think you mentioned before that it was somewhat unique that the main character in the book. I mean, we meet her in the past too when she's a much younger woman, but when we see her in the present, she's an octogenarian, right? I mean, she's 89, and I think some of us might think, well, gosh, like you're 89, like what are you going to do to change your life? But the fact is, this book is all about Colette coming face to face with her past and asking herself the question: have I been choosing the things that I've done in my own life? Have I been choosing who I am, or have I just been doing the things I thought I was obligated to do? Did I get caught in these patterns so long ago that I didn't know how to break? And part of her evolution is finally asking herself what she wants and maybe making some of those changes. So
Oh, beautiful.
I think I want people to think wherever you are in life, ask yourself that question: like, who am I? Who do I want to be? And how do I make that happen?
Awesome. That's such a great answer. And I lied. I actually have one more because I'm really curious. Which did you like better, writing the historical section or the contemporary thread?
I almost always prefer writing the historical section,
I
because
wondered.
I have many books that are dual timeline, and I almost always prefer the historical. In this book, I preferred the present day because I really, really liked present day Colette.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you did a beautiful job with the book. We
You.
really enjoyed it. We can't wait for
Thank you
Meet
so
Me in
much.
Paris, which will be out next summer sometime.
Yeah, I think next August. So people
Next
will
summer.
have plenty of time to meet you in Italy through the pages of your book, and then they can go on their second little vacation of the year with me to meet
Oh,
me in
too bad they
Paris.
don't come out at the same time. I was kind of
Wouldn't
thinking,
that be awesome? We
yeah,
could tour
that would have
together.
been awesome. Then it would have been easier to do our little trip to see each other in Italy and Paris. But
Exactly.
anyway, thank you so much. We're so grateful to you for signing all those books and making time to join us this evening and being
Thank
such a
you
great
so
sport with
much.
the spilling the tea section and everything. So
Oh, that
cheers
was
to
so
you
fun.
and your
Cheers
continued
to you.
success.
And I hope the wine class goes really well. These are such cool glasses, and it's going to be amazing.
Thank you. Vinny does a good job, so I'm excited about that. So
Awesome.
thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
now, everybody, I am excited because we have, well, let me do a couple other announcements and then we'll bring Megan on because we have a fun Australian game that we're going to play with her. We often tease Megan because she does this thing where if she just sounds like, so like we'll be in a boat and she'll say, watch out for the flabooey. And we're like, what's a flabooey? You know, and she means the buoy. So we tease her mercilessly about these little language slip ups. So I thought she would be the perfect one to try my Australianisms on. So I'm going to give her some Australia-isms and she's going to guess what it means. And then you guess as well in the comments, and we will pick some of those comments to win some of the prizes that we are giving away tonight. So we are going to do that. And then, but first, let me tell you that I mentioned that we're going to have the Halloween party, so we want you to get prepared for it. If you want to dress up for that, it'll be a fun opportunity where you can post a picture of yourself in book group to enter our costume competition. So even if you're getting dressed up a different day and you're doing it for your kids' school or whatever, take a picture and let's enter the costume contest. And the photo that gets the most likes will win a spooky prize pack that includes an autographed copy of one of my Evelyn Talbot books. So either Hanover House, Her Darkest Nightmare, Hello Again, Face Off, and Blind Spot. They're probably my scariest books. And so we are going to be giving away autographed copies of those to the person, or at least one of those, maybe a couple of those, to the person that wins the spooky prize pack. So I also wanted to let you know that the next after party I mentioned while Kristin was here is going to be the Halloween party, and that'll be after our book group meeting in October. Oh, and we're also going to be having making some Halloween spooky treats together on the Zoom. So even if you don't dress up, definitely you're going to want to join us for the after party. So make sure you get October's box, and we will get together and make some fun spooky treats. Alexa and I love doing things that are very theme related, like, you know, Halloween and stuff. So, and now I get to announce our top 10. Our top 10 contributors for September are, and Facebook chooses these people, not Alexa and I: Janet Roble, Ronita Ramirez, Jo Marie Maderer, Christina Modges, Virgie Lane, Star Roybal, Nancy Brady, Jen Miller, Cheryl Little, and Marie Christensen. So thank you to them. Their name goes into a hat